What else?
See something.
Do I go to the cybernetical link or to Google?
Does it tell you anything or?
Yeah, I mean, just wait.
Oh, I see you.
Listo.
All right. Exactly. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect, bro. I usually disable the camera. I mean, it's all right. You can leave it on. But can you hear me well? Ah,
¿Qué estás diciendo que estoy muy feo o qué?
está feo, está como feo.
How you take this shit off? Ah, okay.
Yeah, you just gotta. Perfect. Perfect, bro. So like I was telling you, the first so do you have your pin book with you?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So you're gonna see the pin book. The first part that we're gonna cover is if you go to page 3, and we're gonna start covering stuff in there. Go to page 3. So that's the first part, the first concept that I want you to work, that I want you to start handling. So the first is what is a project. So this is the textbook definition. I mean, you're gonna find several definitions. I mean, you can look it up in a dictionary, or you can go on the internet, find different definitions. But the one that we have, and this is important to start understanding, is that a project, it's a temporary endeavor. Temporary meaning that it's not going to be. It has a beginning and an end. So that's what temporary means. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's short, but it's something that is temporary, has a beginning and has an end. So temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. So product is the one that is very easy to grasp. It could be a software solution. It could be a house. It could be a building. It could be a car. I mean, whatever. I mean, that's very simple to understand. A service, not necessarily a product, but it could also be a service that you're providing. I mean, so software, there are services that you use a lot, or a result. So there's something coming out of it. Like it could be. I don't know. Think of something like a wedding or something like that has a result. So you're doing a project so you can have your wedding and get married, for example. So that could be a result. So look at the definition afterwards. So they tell you temporary nature of the project indicates that a project has a definite beginning and a definite end. So that's something that I want you to keep in mind and at all times. A project is not open-ended. It starts at a certain point in time, and when does it end? When the objective of the project is completed, or when it's terminated because you're not going to be able to achieve the goals or the objectives of the project. So that's when the project ends. So you can keep on elaborating on the definition. Like they tell you there, temporary doesn't mean that it's short. I mean, some programs they go on and on for years. I mean, a good example will be in the military. They have programs for fighter jets or I don't know, and a new type of weapon system. So those are programs and a program is a group of projects. We're also going to cover that could take, that can last a few years, but it's definitely going to have a beginning. It's definitely going to have an end, even though they could take a while. They're going to have an end. So the big difference is that there's also ongoing work that it's happening at all times. Like think of support, for example. That's ongoing. Once the solution goes live, you got to provide support. So that's something that is ongoing. That's not a project. So, for example, when we at Royal deliver a solution, and then it's handled to the call center to provide support, that's ongoing. So it's repetitive, and it's not. It takes resources to be achieved, but it's not a project because it's ongoing by nature, and it doesn't have it has a beginning, but it doesn't have an end. It's open-ended. So that'll be something for you to keep in mind. So as they say here, a product can be either a component or another item or an enhancement of an item. It can be a service or a capability to perform or provide a service, something for a business function, an improvement to something already existing, or a result, such an outcome or a document. So they give you some examples there. So if it's something that is routine, it's not a project. If it's ongoing, it's not a project. If it has a definite beginning and a definite end, it is a project. Okay? Questions?
No.
Got it?
Sure.
Okay. So they tell you
Yep.
so now there's a division that I want you to understand. They start with the relationships among portfolios, programs, and projects. So you have a project, right? Usually a project is the lowest level, and it deals with specific with a very specific objective. The projects per se are very specific. For example, I'm going to use the one so you can see it from Royal. The one that I'm working right now for Royal, the casino loyalty program for Royal. That's specific for Royal, and it's a very specific initiative. So but projects are, you have a group of projects that are related among themselves because they have, it's like, think of it as a big umbrella. So then you have a program that is gonna cover a group of projects that are usually related, that have similar goals and are related. So, for example, I have a casino player profile for celebrity. That's another project, and that one is related to the casino loyalty program for Royal. So they're related together, combined. They're part of a bigger program that is the casino program for Royal and celebrity. So it's like a higher level of it's the casino loyalty for royalty or celebrity is like the bigger umbrella that covers both projects. That will be the program. And then you have even a higher level that is the portfolio that covers several programs and projects that are related among themselves. It's for you to have a strategic vision. So a good example, let's use a better example. You know the Olympics, right? The Olympic Games. So the different sports will be a group of projects. Let's say soccer, baseball, or let's go to track and field. You have 100 meters, 110 meters with 110 meters dash. You have 5,000 meters. You have the marathon, right? So those are different projects. Those races or those different competitions, those are different projects. But all of those, they're track and field. So that will be the program. Track and field is a program that consists of several projects. Like I said, the 100 meters, 110 meters with dash, the marathon, the 1,500 meters. I mean, all those races, and then you have other decathlon or whatever. So all those different projects are part of a program that will be track and field. All of those belong to track and field. And then you have the portfolio view that covers not only that program, but also other programs and other projects, which are the Olympic Games. You have other programs like swimming, for example. That will be a program. Then within swimming, you have freestyle, you have backstroke, you have 100 meters butterfly, and all those different races. Those different races or competitions are projects. Then the program will be swimming, and then the portfolio will be the Olympic Games. So you see the difference?
Mm-hmm.
So that, and why do they do that? To have an understanding and have a strategic vision of the different projects and within the organization, and have like group them following some logics and what really makes sense for the organization, so you can have a strategic view. So that's why you divide them like that. So like they tell you here, programs are grouped within a portfolio and are comprised of sub-programs, projects, or other work that are managed in a coordinated fashion in support of the portfolio. Individual projects are either within or outside of a program, are still considered part of portfolio. So, although the projects or programs within the portfolio may not necessarily be interdependent or directly related, They are linked to the organization's strategic plan by means of the organization's portfolio. That's why you have projects, programs, and portfolios. So what's the highest level?
The company.
No, but within the three.
Not portfolio, program, project.
So the highest one will be portfolio, and the lowest one will be
The project.
a project. Yes, correct. So you have project the lowest level, programs on top, and then the highest one, the highest level will be the portfolio. Great. So then we start covering project management. So this is when it starts. And this is project management from the PMI point of view. You have is the application of knowledge and skills and tools and techniques to project activities to meet project requirements. So one hint, in the PMBOK, you're not going to find the word task. They don't like in Microsoft Project, they call it project task. The PMBOK uses project activity. It's the same thing. So if you see activity, that means project task, because probably you're used to you're familiar with project, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it's the same thing. So don't be thrown off. What is an activity? What is a task? It's the same thing. So project management, like I was telling you earlier today, is divided into 47 logically grouped project management processes. Those are the 47 processes for project management, and that's divided into, those are categorized into 5 process groups. 5 process groups, you have to learn them by heart. Very simple: initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, controlling, and closing. So those are the 5 process groups. So that I want you to work hard on learning that. I mean, that one is simple, but I also want you to memorize the knowledge areas and so what do we do when we manage a project? So among other things, you identify the requirements. Of course, you usually work with a business analyst to do that. It's not necessarily what the project manager is going to be doing, but you have to work or assist in some way or fashion in regards to identify the requirements. You want to address the needs, concerns, and expectations of the stakeholders. And when you are planning and executing the project, you want to maintain communications among stakeholders, make sure that they're effective and active. You want to manage the stakeholders towards meeting the project requirements and creating the project deliverables. Remember that the work that you're doing with the requirements, how do you meet a requirement with a deliverable? A deliverable should be associated with a requirement. So the requirement is we need to build a 6-foot ladder. So the deliverable is going to be building a 6-foot. The deliverable is going to be the actual ladder that is 6 foot long, or tall, something like that. So you're going to have the deliverables are tied to the requirements. And also another very important thing is that you are, as a project manager, that's what we do. What do we do? We manage what used to be called a triple constraint, but they added more elements to it. Before it was scope, budget, and schedule, the timeline. So you manage a scope that you're completing the work that you're doing is completing the requirements that the project has. So that'll be the scope of the project, what the project is doing. Then you're also managing the timeline, which will be the schedule. And then you're managing the budget that you have for the project. So that'll be, you're managing the cost. You're also managing resources. You're also managing risk, and a very important part, which is quality. So you have several elements. Before, there used to be the notion of the triple constraint. You're gonna hear that rather often, but the triple constraint has more elements that were added. Quality, it has resources, and it has risks. So it's more than the triple constraint.
The triple
Um,
constraint was scope. The triple constraint was scope, budget, and what else?
Scope, budget, and schedule. So which is time, money, and then and scope, what you're doing. So
That's how CPI, SPI are calculated.
yeah, we're going to be covering that. But CPI is cost performance index. Yes, correct. That's a way to measure it. And SPI is schedule performance index. So those two are metrics that show you how you're performing in regards to your with your actuals and your plan values. So one regarding the budget and one regarding the schedule. So those are two metrics that we're going to be covering that. That's at a later time. That's part of a process, and we're definitely going to be covering CPI and SPI. So you understand where they come from. But yep, that's how you do it.
Okay.
You measure, and not only those two, you also measure earned value. So you have some metrics. Okay. Then if you look at page 8, that probably will be interesting for you to understand the differences between project programs and portfolios in regards to scope, change, planning, management, and success and monitoring. So it kind of reinforces the knowledge that we're actually covering. The reinforces that information. So it tells you, the projects are, in regards to scope, they have defined objectives. It's progressively elaborated throughout the project life cycle. Then the programs have a larger scope and provide more significant benefits. And portfolios have an organizational scope that changes with the strategic objectives of the organization. It's a very high level. That's at a 50,000 feet view. So portfolios are it's at a higher level. So then you have, then they start with definition on page 9. It's a program management. So a program is defined as a group of related projects, sub-programs, and program activities managed in a coordinated way to obtain benefits not available from managing them individually. Managing them individually is just managing the projects. So sometimes when you have initiatives like the ones that I was telling you for the casino will be the program. And if you put the different projects that are related within the same business unit, if you have an approach of following a program management, your results can be more effective. Why? Because you're going to be able to identify synergies that among the different projects and possibly be able to leverage some of the knowledge and the lessons learned from some of those projects, and that could derive in saving time, in also saving some or reducing the cost of the project. So when you have a more holistic approach, that you're covering, you're looking at a group of projects, not just as individual initiatives, you have a better chance to be aligned, and your chances of being effective increase dramatically. So this approach of program management is more effective. It's cost effective, and it helps you to save some time too. Then the portfolio management, that's at a higher level. Usually a portfolio is tied up to specific goals that at the organizational level, like it could be, those goals could be, I don't know, reduce cost by, or reduce um, operational cost by 20%. So what do you do? So that's the organizational strategic goal that a particular organization has. So how did you achieve that? Then using this approach of portfolio management, then you you have a group of programs and also a group of projects that are related to that to make you more cost efficient. And if you link them all together, the ultimate goal. Let's say that you have projects that are okay. We're gonna automate some processes that right now are being done manually. For example, let's say that in a call center um, you were hiring more staff because to provide support of, let's say, um, travel agencies, and but your strategic goal is to reduce costs. So one of the things that you could do at this level is to um, use some automated features. For example, integrates voice recording that could actually help you to reduce the number of staff that you need at the call center because you automated some processes. And then, but your particular project is to let's say use the IVR feature, which is integrates voice recording. So that way, you are going to be using less staff, so you're reducing cost. So that's tied up with a strategic goal. And then you have other projects within the call center that are aligned, and together they form a program. So maybe the program could be call center, and then they're aligned to the portfolio, which is reducing cost by the portfolio could be reducing cost, overall reducing cost of the organization. And that's tied up with the strategic goal that you have, reducing operational cost by 20%. So that's kind of how usually that's kind of how it works.
So basically, saying the same thing as the goal is the justification.
Correct. And then but everything has, that's why we do um, but that's usually the justification of the project. It's tied up to a hierarchy that you have, but ultimately at the very high level there is a specific goal that is tied up with the project. So usually that's how it goes. And who determines that alignment or helps in determining that alignment? The PMO helps with that, and should be usually it's a driving force. But we'll see. We'll learn a little bit more on that. So if you see, why are the reasons that we have why do we do projects in the organization? So usually there's several reasons for that. It could be a market demand. It could be a strategic opportunity or a business need, which is very common. It could be a social need. It could be compliance. That's a legal requirement that's compliance. It could be a technological advance or customer request. That's very common too. Environmental consideration or social need. So those are the reasons of why we carry out projects. So the ones when you work for a company like Royal that is for profit, I mean, usually you have strategic opportunities or business needs, customer requests from the different business units within the organization, or some of them are going to be compliance. So some of the projects might just be compliance.
Most of the PCI work and all that, right?
Yes, correct. PCI would be a good example for compliance. That's personal credit card information. So so that's since Royal is a merchant. I don't know. There are several types of merchants, and Royal is within one of those categories that they have for PCI. So since we handle credit card information with when people buy, when people book cruises, you have to have PCI. You have to be PCI compliant, um, because you're handling credit card information.
Because it's a SOX control.
Yeah, SOX is also it's also compliance, but SOX is its own compliance. PCI is because you handle credit card information, so you're required by law. But SOX is independent from PCI. It's also compliant. It's also compliant. Yeah, but they're not.
It's not PCI does not fall under.
No, not necessarily. They're independent. PCI is because you handle credit card information. That's it. That's why you need to be PCI compliant. And that's yeah. And SOX is it's its own compliance as well. So then the next part is the PMO. This is where it starts. So you have, yep. So it's a governance body. It's a project-related governance body that is going to facilitate the resources, sharing resources, methodologies, tools, and techniques. So depending on the organization, you're going to have different types of PMOs. You're going to have supported PMOs. They're more of a consultant role, very low, usually low authority.
No, basically ours.
Controlling PMOs provide support and require compliance. No, we're of a little bit of a matrix. We're because
I'm thinking a mix of directive and controlling, right?
Yeah. And directive is take control of the project, but directly managing the projects.
Which is
so us. The control provider, yeah, I would say between supportive and controlling. The PMO integrates data and information from corporate strategic projects and evaluates how higher level strategic objectives are being fulfilled. So the key here, a PMO is authority too. So they might act as an integral stakeholder and a key decision maker throughout the life of each project to make recommendations or even terminate projects or take other actions to remain aligned with the different business objectives. The PMO may involve in the selection, management, and deployment of shared and dedicated project resources. And one of the goals that the PMO has is to support project managers, managing shared resources, identifying and development project management methodology, standards, templates, coaching, mentoring, training, and oversight, which we don't barely do any of that. Monitoring compliance with project management standards, that's if you're meeting the SOX requirements, and also adding the tasks that you need to ask for change management, that type of thing in the project, and adding the carry hours for those people. So that's making sure that you're compliant with, and making sure that you have a business requirement document, and also your project scope document with the sign-offs. So that's part of it. And then, developing and managing project policies, procedures, templates, and other shared documentation, and coordinating communication across projects.
Okay.
Now, they cover here the relationship between project management and operations management. Basically, is that operations, they also, even though they're ongoing and they're not considered projects, they use resources. So you have to, in your planning, you have to take that into account as well. So So that your resources, they're not only, they're never allocated, they can never be allocated 100% to a project. That's not, that can never be the case, because they have, there's going to be some of their time is going to be dedicated
Support.
to their support, exactly, ongoing tasks. So if you see someone that is 100% dedicated to a project, that's wrong. That's never the case. Okay. So then, well, that's the main part in regards to operation management. You can read page 12 and 13 to elaborate on that a little bit more. But then, let's go a little bit. Let's go to page 14. So let's go in regards to organizations and project management. Some organizations are project based. They create temporary systems for carrying out their work. Create teams, and they have a specific goal of certain projects, and they're project based. Most of the organizations are not. That's never the case. I mean, you have a matrix. You have a resource manager with the different layers, and then you have the project work. So it's usually in a matrix environment that you're going to be working on. So let's talk a little bit about if you go to page 16.
Wait, what? But like I was saying, so Royal's a very matrix environment. So
yes, and we're going to see that we're going to see that in a little bit. What type of, so the role as a project manager, you are leading the team that is responsible for achieving the project objectives. Is different from a functional manager. I mean, usually the functional manager is focused on providing management oversight for a functional or business unit, and operation managers are responsible for ensuring that business operations are efficient. But
so our managers are a mix of both, though, right?
Well, you mean in Royal?
I'm saying not a project manager. Like resource managers are a mix of operation and functional.
Yes, in our case, yes.
But that's not always like that.
No. You sometimes the resource manager they provide the oversight for the business unit, and the operations they make sure that business operations are efficient. So they focus on the business operation processes, not necessarily the people. So
okay, I get it. So like data center people.
Yeah.
That all they care about is the data center.
Yes, that the data center is running. Yes, that's more of an operational manager. So, depending on the organizational structure, a project manager may report to a functional manager, and in some other cases, a project manager may be one of the several project managers who report to a program or portfolio manager who is ultimately responsible for enterprise-wide projects, which is the case in Royal.
And there's other ways of that?
Yes, you could be reporting to a functional manager, but that's usually not really effective because in some cases...
Which is what we're doing now with the PCP pilot.
Yes, correct. Which might or might not work because...
a lot of people are going to the might not.
And they might not understand project management, so they might not understand a lot of the concepts. So that it also depends. I mean, if you have those functional managers that are, if they understand project management, then the chances of being successful increase. But if they don't, then you have a challenge. So we'll see.
Okay.
So, what are responsibilities and competencies of the project manager? The knowledge you're supposed to know about project management, your performance, it refers to what the project manager is able to do or to accomplish, and personal, which is very important, the skills. You know how the project manager behaves when performing the project related activity. These are the soft skills that you have: leadership, personal effectiveness, and in achieving the project goals and balancing the project constraints. So project managers accomplish their work through the project team and other stakeholders. The effective project managers require a balance of ethical, interpersonal, and conceptual skills that help them analyze situations and interact appropriately. So those are the soft skills that you might want to have, that you need to have: leadership, team building, motivation, communication, decision making, political and cultural awareness, negotiation, trust building, conflict management, and coaching.
So
So
what a
this
lot
is,
of managers don't have.
yeah, a lot of them don't have it. So, and this is very important. This is key because you can have a great project schedule or project plan, everything perfect with all the information that you need, but if you don't get along with your team, the project is not going to go anywhere.
Like Cruise Plus.
Oh, Cruise Plus.
It's a mix of things.
Yes, it's a mix of, but yes, that happened. That happened especially at the beginning.
Yeah.
Um, Based on some information that I had, I think when Craig had it, that was one of the big issues. I mean, he was trying to have the project schedule and tried to build one, but they had someone in there calling the shots that didn't really believe in anything and had a very bad relationship with the rest of the people. That lady is no longer there.
Yeah, she was a
So
contractor.
yes, and she was calling the shots.
Carol.
So yes,
Yeah, nobody liked it. Well, at least not from our side.
yeah.
But
I
she was a
got
business.
I.
She was a business, or she was UK.
She was a weird mix. She was both, both.
She was UK, but she reported to the business or something. It was weird. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, she was both. She reported directly to Brian Powell, and
Uh-huh.
yep. So
We have a contractor. We hire contractors that high up.
this one they did.
That's weird.
Yep,
And she probably paid a lot of money,
yep,
and we paid for that.
yes.
Well,
So that was an example. So then the rest of this is the PMBOK. I mean, this is the guide. This is the standard that the PMI put together. So it refers to that. So let's go to the the organization definitely has an influence. Let's go to page 20. So the organization has influence in regards to project management, how project management is going to be performed within the organization, and how projects are performed. So there, what are some of the elements of the organization that shape the way project management is going to be conducted? Are the shared visions, mission, values, beliefs, and expectations, regulations, policies, methods, and procedures, motivation and reward systems, risk tolerance of the organization, the view of leadership, hierarchy, and authority relationships, the code of conduct, work ethic and work hours, and operating environments. All of those elements are organizational, part of the organizational culture, and they're going to shape the way project management is performed in the organization. They have an influence. They affect project management. So, and also the communication aspect. Communicational aspect is very important. In project management success and organization is highly dependent on an effective organizational communication style, especially in the face of globalization of the project management profession. So communication is key, very important. So now let's go to page 22. And this is where we're going to see the different types of organizations that you have and how it's related to the project manager uh, to the project manager characteristics. So then you have organizations that are functional, 100% functional. So what are those? And you can see in figure on page 22, figure 2-1.
Uh-huh.
So that's the classic functional organization where you have the different hierarchy levels with a staff and then a functional manager, and they all report to a chief executive. And the project coordination is done at the functional manager level. So it's basically with an hierarchy where each employee has a superior. So in a functional organization, the project manager has little to no authority, none.
So there's no
Every,
point.
yeah, no authority. I mean, you can't really. You are dependent 100% on the functional managers.
Which is a little bit sometimes the problem with in Royal.
Yeah, you'll see. Then the second one is the matrix organizations. So matrix, you see at the level of you see on page 23, the weak that's a weak matrix organization. So the project coordination is done at the lowest level. It's a blend of functional and productized characteristics. Matrix organizations can be classified as weak, balanced, or strong, depending on the relative level of power and influence between functional and project managers. So you have weak. If you look at page 22 under matrix, which is what we have in Royal, we have weak, balanced, or strong matrix, right? So in a weak matrix, the project manager's authority is low, and I think that's the case for Royal. It's not a balance, it's not strong. So we have low authority. Resource availability is low. The influence of the project manager when it comes to resource availability is low. Who manages the project budget? Well, you could say that it's in that case is the project manager. So he has that characteristic of who manages the project budget. That will be the project manager. It's not the functional manager. The project manager's role is full time, and the project management administrative staff is full time. So it has some in Royal. You have some characteristics of weak, balanced, and strong. So, but most of them say between weak and balanced.
Nothing strong.
Yeah. So and then projectized is different. Project manager has its own team. They have a high level of authority, and then when it comes to resources, you don't have to do any negotiation with the resource manager because it's your team as a project manager. Then you manage your budget and you're full time, and you have administrative staff that are full time as well. And when you finish your project, you move on to the next project, but you keep the same team.
So project type is product based.
Yeah, it could be. It's you have always the same team of the same team.
Exactly. So you have the same SMEs and same everything on the same
SMEs, same people. Yeah, and they're under you. That's your team. And then you finish a project and you move on to the next one, and so on. So that's kind of how it goes. So then, and this is another example. There's something that I was mentioning to you, page 23. I want you to understand a project expediter is part of the staff assistant that doesn't have any authority whatsoever. A project expediter.
So why do they call it an expediter instead of an admin?
Mm, could just be political correctness.
I mean,
I
yeah, I
mean,
guess because I think of a
yeah,
project admin is somebody that just helps, but they don't do anything. They just
yeah.
support,
They just support and have no authority. So yeah,
which
but
is the same thing essentially as a expediter.
yes, yes. So that's just it's a fancy way of calling an admin. Yes, and then you have a project coordinator that they can make some decisions and might have some authorities. So that's the difference between an expediter and a coordinator authority.
But obviously,
So
these are PMI standards. That
these are PMI standards. So you gotta, yeah, just gotta go by this. I mean, some of the things that you can that we're gonna find here not necessarily apply to Royal, and but that's how it is by design. So you have to forget Royal and only um, go by what the PMI says.
okay.
Hmm. Okay. So let's take a 10-minute break if you don't mind,
Okay, no problem.
and I'll be back in 10. I'll be here, but I'll be back in 10.
Okay, just text me cualquier cosa.
Okay.
Oh, listo.
Awesome. Great, man.
I'll
Thanks.
see you.
Camilo.
¿Aló?
Hey, brother.
Listo.
Seguimos entonces le damos hasta las 11.
Sí, listo.
Ok.
Vale.
Listo.
You back? All right, bro.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, let's go. We just packed my WPKKLK, right? WPKKLM.
All right. So
So according to this diagram, Royal is a strong matrix organization.
I think it has a little bit of weak, has some weeks. It's more of a balance, I would say, because the project manager's authority is low.
Because there's a PMO that has its own managers and everything, but they don't have control over resources or anything.
Correct. Yeah, so the authority is rather low. So it has a little. It's more of a balance, I would say. Because it's mixed. So you have a little bit of everything, and you see on page 24 how the a balanced matrix organization works, and then how the strong matrix works. So you have the different diagrams.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's also it's not a, it's and also remember that it's not something rigid. You know, it can change. So what they're doing for PCP, for example, you know, they're adjusting, and that's because of a strategic goal and trying to see for that particular product that's the best approach, and then they can replicate that to other products or strategic goals that they have, you know. So they might do something similar. So it's that can change. It can always change.
Okay.
All right. So now the next thing, and this is something that you're going to see a lot of the processes that we're going to be covering, the organizational process assets. That's a very recurrent input that you're going to see. You're going to see organizational process assets are the plans, processes, policies, procedures, and knowledge bases specific to and used by the performing organization. So any plans, any policies, any procedures, those are organizational process assets. They include any.
So basically, everything that's templates to SRM tickets, change management tickets, and stuff like that.
Correct. Those are organizational process assets. So when it comes to what the things that they accomplish, they do. And when it comes to initiation planning, they provide guidelines, they provide standards, they provide templates, and then in executing, monitoring, and controlling, change control procedures, like you just said, change management, financial control procedures, and issue and defect management procedures for quality control, for example.
Quality control, like QA?
That's quality assurance. Usually,
we don't actually have a quality control.
No, we don't have a quality control. That's mostly for manufacturing, manufacturing facilities. So you have QC, and that's after the fact. We're going to cover that. But quality assurance happens before the solution or the project is completed. So that's quality assurance. And then once you go live and you have defects, that's quality control.
So stable support and stabilization.
For us, yeah. Well, that's us after the fact, and that'll be QC.
Okay. So that's the difference between QA and QC.
Yeah. One is before the fact, during the when it's still in development and it hasn't gone live. That's quality assurance, and then after the fact, it's quality control.
Support.
But yeah, but in our case, yeah, it's within support. But it's QC because you have to enter the QCs and all of that. So That's kind of how it goes.
Okay.
All right. So then another one that you have on page 29 is enterprise environmental factors. That's another very recurrent input that you're going to see. And it's any industry standards like regulatory agency regulations, infrastructure, existing human resources, company work authorization, marketplace conditions, stakeholder risk tolerance, political climate, commercial databases, and even a project management information system like Microsoft Project. That will be an enterprise environmental factor.
So basically, when they remove the 2-week post-deployment period and made it only a 1 week, is that the same as an enterprise factor?
Um,
I mean, in the sense, it's out of the project team. I mean, it's out of the company's
yes,
accounting.
but you know what? I will look at that a little bit more as an organizational process asset because it's more of a procedure. Or at least a process. So I think it's more of an organizational process asset than an environmental factor. Environmental factor is the marketplace conditions, actually not necessarily within the organization. It's outside of the organization. Yeah. So I think it's an organizational process asset that week of stabilization. It's a process that we have to follow.
What's that doing?
We have to comply with that. So.
Okay.
All right. So let's start a little bit with the project stakeholder. Who are the stakeholders? Anybody that is affected by the project is a stakeholder. It could be an individual, it could be a group, it could be an organization, and they might be affected by an activity, a decision, or an outcome of the project. So those are the stakeholders. If you're affected by your project in any way, shape, or form, then you're a stakeholder. And they need to be managed. And of course, they include all the members of the project team as well as the interested entities and maybe internal, external to the organization. They have different levels of responsibility and authority when they participate in a project. So, so if you go to page 32, they tell you the different project stakeholders that you have. The sponsor, the person or group that provides resources and support for the project is accountable for enabling success. Might be external or internal to the project manager's organization.
So sponsor's the one that pay. That's basically, well, in our case, is the one that gives the money.
Yeah, and is responsible for that.
Well, not that gives the money, but sponsors the project.
Mm-hmm.
And customers and users will be that same sponsored team,
The business.
the business.
Customers,
Sellers.
the personal organization, yeah. Sellers are the vendors. We call it vendors.
I thought it was already in that.
Business partners are external organizations that have a special relationship with the enterprise.
Oh, that's
Sometimes,
idea.
exactly.
That's,
Organizational groups are internal stakeholders that are affected by activities. Those are different departments that we have. Functional managers, we have several of those. The GBS, we have
Is there a reason for
the functional managers from the business,
Wow.
finance, accounting. Then you have other stakeholders like procurement entities, financial institutions, subject matter experts, consultants. You had
so there's how's procurement a stakeholder? Because they're the one that purchased the things.
yeah, but in this case they put them as yes, procurement would be exactly. they're the ones that do the purchasing. So the purchasing department of procurement, I think we call it procurement. So yeah,
Okay.
they are stakeholders as well.
Project governance. So project governance is basically just life cycle and what each stage a project has to go through,
Yes,
and the necessary steps in each stage.
they need to. The project success. I mean, success is very subjective. So usually, it's completing the project within the constraints that you have: the scope, time, and cost, quality, resources, and risk, and as approved between the project managers and senior management.
And basically accept it. I mean, it's even worse.
No, no, no.
So project success is even worse. Is basically when you get the document sign off.
Well, yeah, when you deliver, you went. Basically, it's that you went live when you said that you were going to go live, that the project wasn't delayed, that you didn't have any cost overrun, you didn't need additional money, and that your scope covered all the requirements that you originally had. You deliver a solution that meets all of the requirements that you originally had for the project. So that's usually what a project success is. You deliver on time, within budget, and you deliver all the scope that was promised in the scope document. So that's what it is. So let's go on what you were saying about the project life cycle. So you start. This is an important part that I want you to see. It passes from initiation to closure. The phases are usually sequential, and then at the starting, if you look at figure 2-8 on page 39, so you start. When does the project start? That's an important question that I want you to understand. According to PMI, the project starts when the project charter is created. The project charter is a document that has high-level information regarding the requirements, high-level information regarding the scope of the project, high-level information regarding the goals of the project, and high-level information. Could even have something regarding the team, the project team as well. So it has a little bit of. It's a document. It's a formal document that has high-level information. 50,000 feet when the project's at the very early stage. So, but once that document is created, the project charter, that's when officially the project starts. Okay. So, according to PMI, the project manager doesn't start working the project before the project manager is going to start working the project once the project charter is created. According to PMI, the one that works in creating the project charter is the sponsor. But in real life, that's usually not the case. The project manager, in most cases, is going to help the sponsor to create the project charter. But we are following the PMI 100%, so that's what we need to stick to. So the project sponsor
creates the
one that creates the project charter, and then once the project charter is created, that's when the project starts. And if you look at that graphic, the figure 2-8, starting the project, and you see those lines when they intersect each other, starting the project, that's when the project charter is created. That you have like a little milestone there. Project charter, and then your organizing and preparing. That's between project charter and project management plan. So that's what you're going to have ready, once you have the project management plan ready, that's when you start carrying out the work. That's when development starts. So then, once you have accepted deliverables, those deliverables are going to be associated with each requirement, and when those deliverables meet those requirements and they're accepted through a sign off, that's when you start closing the project. And when does it work? When does it end? When you archive the project documents. That's the end of the project. So basically, from there, you see when everything is all the life cycle of the project, like a bell curve. So it starts, and then if you look at an important thing is the cost and staffing level at the beginning of the project. When it started, is low, and it grows a little bit in organizing and preparing. But then when you're carrying out the work, that's going to reach its peak. But that's when you have all the people working, the development working, and happening. So that's why it's important. So that's an important graphic that I want you to understand.
Okay.
So then you see in the generic life cycle structure, the cost and staffing levels are low at the start, peak as the work is carried out, and drop rapidly as the project draws to close. And risk and uncertainty is usually very high at the very beginning of the project. Why? Because when you have just a project charter, you remember you have a very high level view. So risk and uncertainty is very high at that particular moment. Well, that starts decreasing as you progress with the project.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at figure 2-9 on page 40, the cost of changes, they start low because when you're the high level view and you start working on changing the scope at that moment, changing any changes, the cost is rather low because you don't have anything built. But as time progresses, and if you have to make any changes, the cost increases exponentially. So you see the risk and uncertainty, they tend to decrease as the project progresses, but the cost of changes, any changes, it increases in time. So project might be divided in phases. A project phase is a collection of logically related project activities that culminates in the completion of one or more deliverables. So you have different project phases within the project. I mean, you might have a single phase project. I mean, you have initiation process, and you can look at figure 2-10. You might have sequential relationship or overlapping relationships. You might have different different approaches. So those are look at, for example, when you build the figure 2-12, how you only have two phases, but even though you have a design phase and then you have a construction phase, if you look at the arrows in between, you're applying all of the 5 process groups. You're applying initiating process, you're applying planning processes, monitoring and controlling is around all of the phases, all of the process groups, I'm sorry. Then you have the executing processes and then the closing processes before moving to the next phase. So with that, what I'm trying to point out, and I want to make sure that you understand this because you're going to be a good project manager, the 5 process groups initiate. What are the five process groups?
Initiation,
Mm-hmm.
execution, monitoring, control.
There's one before that. After initiation, there's another one.
Well, I already forgot that one.
Planning.
Okay, so it's initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, control, and closing.
Correct. So those are process groups. They are not project phases.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so you're a good project. You're going to be a good project manager. So those are not project phases. A lot of people make that mistake, and they say that initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, controlling, and closing are project phases. They are not. Now, there's a caveat. In some places, some organizations, they use the same names, so they call it like that, but it's not really a good practice because they, as you can see, in one phase of a project, you can apply all five.
Uh-huh.
So, or if you look at figure 2-11, they only have three phases, but they are applying the 5 process groups in each phase. So, and then on figure 2-10, you only have one phase in the project.
But that one phase has everything.
You are applying all the 5 different process groups. Okay? So process groups are not the same as project phases. And that's the reason why. And ideally, you don't want to call the phases the same using the same name.
Exactly, because typically it's just it's the typical IT lifecycle software.
Yes. And
Stuff
then you have on page 44, you have exactly that. You have requirements, feasibility, planning, design, construct, test, and turnover. So that's a predictive life cycle. So those are phases. So that's
a typical,
simple
one.
Exactly.
Feasibility. Never heard that one. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll take a stop right here. So we're going to start. The next step is going to be the processes. So now we kind of cover what project match, what is a project. We cover a lot of good information regarding the framework. So what we've been covering so far is the framework, and we are about to start with the processes.
So are iterations just another word of sprints?
They're very similar. Yes, they're very similar.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Went away.
All right. So how do you feel? How do you like it so far?
No, I like it. Ayuda. I mean, I know a lot of it, at least this part, but it's good to just see it from a different point of view, and how also PMI looks at it.
Yeah, and I know that and remember, usually at any organization, they're not necessarily going to follow PMI 100%. Some of them follow PMI to a certain extent. Some organizations more than others. So a lot of the things might be different. So, but for the purposes of the test, you have to follow the PMI methodology. PMI is the only way. It's either PMI or the highway. So that's how you got to look at it. For you, I think it's going to be easier than for someone that has 20 years working as a project manager.
Yeah.
Because I had that. I had this guy has been doing project management for 20 years. I mean, he was correcting me all the time, and I kept on telling him, like, it's not it's not about being right or wrong. I mean, this is what the PMI. You're trying to become a PMP, so you have to. I don't know. I told him, I don't know how you're going to be able to do that, but you have to detach from what you know, and learn a new way. Learn the PMI way, because you're not going to be tested on your knowledge. You're going to be tested on the PMI methodology. You have to answer the questions. I mean, remember that all the questions are scenario based. So you have to answer them following the PMI methodology, which is the better way of doing things. I mean, it's a standard. This is the product of people from different industries putting together a standard. So that's what this is, a body of knowledge. I mean, So that's what you want to keep in mind. You got to think in PMI terms.
Uh-huh.
All right. So the next time we're going to be covering the processes, and we're going to start with the actual process groups and the knowledge areas, which I'm going to be giving you. I want you to I want you to if possible, whenever you get a chance, there's a page. One of the most important pages in all of Pinbook is page 61. Uh, I'm gonna uh, I'm gonna do that for you. I'm gonna print it out for you and give
Uh-huh.
you a copy, because I want you to learn the different knowledge areas and the different processes that are in there. So I want you to learn that. And if you can memorize it, great. You don't have to, but at least understand the different knowledge areas and the different processes that you have in there. Because page 61 has the process groups and the knowledge areas, the mapping. So you're going to see there. And then I'm also going to teach you a way. Have you ever used mnemonics?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna teach you a way to learn the knowledge areas. I want you to learn not only the five process groups, but the knowledge areas as well. The knowledge areas are integration, scope, time, cost, quality, human resource, communications, risk, procurement, and stakeholder. So those are the different knowledge areas that you have to manage. So I'm gonna show you a way, very simple way of learning how to memorize those knowledge areas. And it's using mnemonics is using association with a word. So you write a phrase that has, and the first letter, it matches the knowledge area, and that way you remember, instead of remembering the different words that I just said, which are really hard, you're just gonna learn a letter. You're just gonna learn a phrase. That might not make that much sense, but you'll see. It's easier than learning the whole all of those words. I'll show you that. For example, the phrase that I use for that is, I see two cops quietly having coffee, reading paper samples. So you might be like, what the hell is he saying? So I see two cops quietly having coffee, reading paper samples. But if you see, the I is for integration. So I rather learn I than learn integration. C is for scope. So SEE, you know. So I see. Then the next one is two for time, cops for cost, quietly for quality, having instead of human resource, then coffee instead of communications, reading instead of risk, paper instead of procurement, samples instead of stakeholder. So that's you write that phrase down, and then the first letter is gonna allow you to remember the different knowledge areas. So that's mnemonics. That's what mnemonics are. But we'll go over that. So I'll print page 61 so you can have it and start reading that. I mean, put it somewhere. I mean, put it in your fridge or somewhere that you can always read it, so you can start memorizing and learning that, become familiar with that. Then we're going to start dissecting the processes within the different knowledge areas. You'll see, the process, like I told you, has three parts: input, tools and techniques, and outputs. And next class, we're going to start taking some tests for a framework.
Okay.
So that's also your homework too. Try to start taking tests. Play with the portal a little bit. Let me know if you have any issues. You shouldn't have any issues, but try to start familiarizing with that, and then you can start taking tests on framework. we already covered some of it, so you should be able to take some of the tests, at least for framework. And you remember, like I told you, you can use you can do 20 questions. I mean, 10 questions. I mean, as many questions as you can. But if you can put it in framework, you can start taking them and learning. And if you find some stuff in there that um, that is new and stuff, we can bring it up, and we'll do some practice tests on Thursday as well.
Okay.
All right, man.
All right, man.
So,
Thank you
so
so much.
how do you like it?
I like it.
Cool. So no, just start reading the pin book and start familiarizing with that, and we'll do it again on Thursday, man.
Bueno, Orlando, muchas gracias.
No, gracias a ti, bro. So talk to you
Bueno,
tomorrow, man.
all
Good
right.
night.